Okay, we're starting here. Hello. This is the first episode of 2800, where me, Grace Rivera, and my friend Charlie Leonard will be commenting on the Marvel series WandaVision. Also talking about Easter eggs and fan theories and all that good stuff. I guess we should
Very well
introduce
said.
ourselves. I'm Grace.
I'm Charlie. Yes.
We both are friends. We live 3,000 miles apart. We go to the
That's
same
right.
college, though.
Grace, where are you from? Tell the people where you were.
I'm from Jersey.
She's from Jersey.
The East Coast. Hey.
Dude. Hey. And I'm in California. I'm in sunny Southern California. And yeah, we're making
the
this
best
happen.
of both worlds here.
True. We got the East and West Coast, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. We've been fans of Marvel for a very long time. I guess
like 7, right? Because
I was like 7 because Iron Man came out when I was like in 2008 and I was 7.
We were literally both 7.
We're both in the middle of like a Marvel what do you call that?
Like marathon?
Yeah, we're in the middle of
back and started watching all the Marvel movies in chronological order. So we started with the first Avenger, then Marvel,
yeah,
and we've been working from there. And I'm on Civil War right now, and she's on Winter Soldier. So we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Just to jog the old memory. Yeah,
because
so we have our facts straight.
I'm 19 now, and 7 years old was a long.
That was a long time ago. I'm not trying to have any hardcore Marvel fans come out and be like, "You said."
Disclaimer: we're not. We're not.
We're just having fun.
And yeah, we know enough. We
know enough. I dare say we have some pretty good insight to the series. Yes. And the way this podcast started is when I was just, doing my routine FaceTime call with Miss Grace here.
Yeah.
And we started talking for like 2 hours. It was literally like a 2-hour
about this show. And then we were like, we should just make it into
and every little Easter egg, every little thing we noticed. And I was like, wait, okay, let's do it. And I've done so much research into the actors themselves too, and just the backstory. So I think we're cool. But disclaimer, we are not hardcore fans. We are not.
This is also our first podcast, so
be gentle. Be
gentle.
Okay.
Yeah, in this episode we're gonna talk about episode 1 and 2 of WandaVision. So episode 1, we open up and it's this 1960s, 1950s black and white sitcom, very much I Love Lucy. And then Wanda and Vision realize that there's a heart on the calendar, and they both think it's something really important, but neither of them want to admit that they forgot about this really important date because they don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. This common theme of like not being able to remember their past or like any like personal detail is like something that comes up throughout the entire 2 episodes. But this is the first time we see it. And it's strange because both, if you've seen any other Marvel films or anything like that, you know that these 2 superheroes or these 2 people are very reliable, and Vision is literally a computer. Like he
very
doesn't
much
forget about anything.
Very much superior beings. Very much know all. I dare say that Wanda and Vision are 2 of the most powerful in the universe.
I mean, after Endgame,
I can argue that.
Wanda,
Wanda really came through. Even when Vision was first created, even when Vision rolled up out of the womb and he was like, "Guess what, Thor?
He is literally one of the stones." Like, so they're pretty powerful.
They should have it together. But it is very apparent in these episodes that they do not. Like, his boss asks him like. Or no, his boss and his wife, they're like, when were you married? What's your backstory? When did you meet? And you can see on their face.
Yeah. So then when Vision gets to work, it's kind of funny because he works in like he works in a
data processing.
Yeah, in a data processing
facility company.
Yeah. And he's a computer, so that's funny. And they make a joke about that.
They do make a joke. So I enjoy
that. And so then he realizes that the heart on the calendar was a abbreviation for his boss, Mr. Hart, who they were supposed to have dinner with that night. And so he calls Wanda in a very vague conversation. He's like, are you ready for tonight? And he's freaking out, and Wanda thinks it's their like anniversary, and
right.
Wanda's like, yeah, I'm ready, you know, like I can't wait for you to come home. And he's like, okay, like this is very serious, like we have to get this. And
break it. And she's like,
okay, okay, like calm down, like it's gonna be good. And then
meanwhile, she's just met Agnes, and they've just been discussing like a women's magazine, like how to serve your husband and all that jazz.
Yeah, very much that era. I was watching that, I was like, I was like, okay.
But you know, it's in the style. Style. I can get behind it. And so Agnes was like, how to serve your husband, like do this, and she makes some like sexual innuendo, like she makes some like suggestion, like it's funny, and they have a nice like, oh you're so bad moment, and I was like, oh man, okay. So Wanda thinks that she's getting ready for like a nice little steamy night, nice little romantic night where she's gonna surprise her husband.
And then finally Vision comes home with his boss and his boss's wife, Mr. and Mrs. Hart, and the entire house is like set up for like a date night. It's dark, it's candlelit, you know, this, that, and the other. And
Wanda comes in a beautiful little like
in a cute little like, I don't even know, is that like the lingerie of the
There's
time?
like a term for it. It's like I think it's called
like I want one. Robe. It looks good.
I know, like, I want one too. It's called like a widow robe. And anyways, Miss Girl looked beautiful. She looked magnificent. And she comes up behind his boss thinking it's Vision, and she was like, oh, like guess who? And like a very seductive voice.
And then everyone's like, what is happening?
And so they make up a sloppy cover about that, and it's basically just them trying to get through this godforsaken dinner party that Wanda just did not know.
Wanda
they're both really struggling to assimilate into human culture, you can call it that.
Then Wanda figures out what's up. She's scrambling to make a dinner, this, that, and the other. And finally the real like meat of the like show, the like pinnacle climax moment, they're having dinner, and Mr. and Mrs. Hart start asking all these questions, and they're like, where are you from, when did you get married, like why did you come here, like very personal questions, and neither of them like know anything. They're just like,
see that it's blank.
It's like their minds have been completely wiped of
it was weird
living anywhere. And it's weird because they make a reference to Wanda's Slovakian like heritage, or that she's from Slovakia.
They're like, oh, she's from Europe.
And he's like, it's a Slovakian greeting, like when she does that, that's very quick. But then when they ask them questions, it was like where they had to think, they were like, actually, like I don't know. And it becomes this weird like Black Mirror episode. It gave me like very much Black Mirror vibes.
I think Wanda, there's a point where Mr. Hart chokes, and it seems as if time stands still. And I was telling Grace, I think Wanda, the reality did something, and then Vision doesn't do anything. And that's neither of them break into like superhero mode and like rush to do anything, which is what we've seen in Ultron and the movies before, in Infinity War. We've seen them like rush into, we know these characters, and they both just kind of sit there and just like, it pans to the wife that's saying like, stop it, stop it. And I was like, what? And
it's like really weird.
Only when Wanda snaps him out, she goes, Vision, help him, is when he actually does something, and helping Vision reaches in and dislodges the piece of like steak from Mr. Hart's throat or whatever it was. And then they act like nothing happened, and they act like the evening went fantastic, and then they leave.
And that's the first time in the entire show that you get this sense that Wanda is controlling, or Wanda knows something, because everyone's waiting for Wanda. Everyone's looking at Wanda. Like even the wife is looking at Wanda.
They all were.
Her to stop it. Like she could have looked at Vision and been like, stop it, but she's looking directly at Wanda and is like, stop it. It's
noted that the wife didn't even recognize anything was going on. Like the wife was like, oh, he's choking, haha. And I was like,
this weird like almost like control of the other citizens in the town. It becomes apparent in the second episode when there's another thing that occurs, but you can tell that these people are kind of like not actors, but more like they're controlled like their
It's weird.
reactions
You can
are
tell
controlled.
something is very, very much off.
Yeah, and then they,
especially with Agnes too.
Yeah, they and then after that, they Mr. and Mrs. Hart leave. It's like this weird transition. It's like none of it ever happened, and then they have like a little conversation at the end of the episode. They're like, yeah, that's weird, like we don't have any rings. Then Wanda creates rings for them, which is another, like, Wanda uses her powers more than I think Vision does in this episode.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But can I just say too, the scenes where they are together just destroyed me. Like, just broke my heart.
Yeah,
like, I was watching it and I was like, oh man, because it's not real. Well, yeah. I'm assuming that this is taking place right after Endgame, right? I'm assuming yes. And the little Easter egg that kind of clued me in, and it's the name of our podcast, 2800. I'm taking it to be the year that they are in. That's what I read into that little Easter egg moment, and I've seen a lot of theories online that are like, oh, this proves that they're getting closer to the multiverse, and like this proves that like reality is becoming further and further like jumbled up. And
I know they're gonna start talking about the multiverse in Loki. They're gonna get into it more, to kind of like to pan out. I feel like Phase 4 of Marvel, if you know about the phases, I feel like Phase 4 of Marvel is going to be very much about the multiverse and explaining it in detail, because you've seen it. You see it in Phase 1. You see it a lot in Phase 2 with, like, I feel like with Guardians of the Galaxy, and then like Thor, and then they like talk about the 9 realms and all of that, and you're like, okay, cool. Like, I would like to get into more detail, but they don't.
They really, well, because they had to set up Infinity War and Endgame. They had to set that up. So that was a precedent then. But now that the dust is all settled, I think that they might be.
I think that's what's happening. What they're trying to do right now. But yeah, after that, it ends, and it's like this like roll credits, like end of like the sitcom, and then it pans out, and it's like somebody is watching them on this TV writing notes. And then it gets very Truman Show like, where you're like, oh, this is like a controlled environment, like everything that's happening here is almost like they're almost like lab rats.
That's what threw me off, because at the start I was like, oh, this is just Wanda creating an alternate reality, an alternate timeline for her and Vision to be together, because she cannot deal with the fact that she just destroyed like quite literally the one person she has in the world.
Yeah.
And their love story is like against every single odds. They were able to fall so deeply in love, and so it's really interesting. I genuinely thought it was just like, oh, Wanda's controlling everything. But then I was like, Grace, like, why are so many things happening that Wanda can't control, or they can't explain, or they can't do? And then Grace said,
okay, yeah. So before I even looked up any Easter eggs or anything, I had like this thought in my head. I was like, like, I wonder if like the reason she's in here is because after Endgame they realized how powerful she was, and they don't really know how to like deal with that information, or they don't really know how to deal with her yet. And so as an experiment, and as like a way to see how much she's capable of, they put her in this like controlled environment. And I think that Wanda knows in some way that she can control what happens in there, because Wanda and Vision still have their powers.
And we later do see Wanda just reverse the timeline like that when
in the second episode.
But we're aware that she has her powers and she can alter like reality.
But yeah, I think this whole her being in this
WandaVision, the show.
Yeah, WandaVision is legitimately a show. Is like legitimately,
or like a trap done by S.W.O.R.D or something. Because it's also worth noting, Wanda started the
Marvel
it's not
Universe
S.W.O.R.D. She was a villain first.
Yeah, she
And
was a
so,
villain first.
yeah, and they are aware of how powerful she is. They even say, I think it's in Infinity War or Endgame. I'm mixing those up right now. But there's even a moment where she like comes in and like takes out a whole fleet. And they say like she could have done that the whole time. Or like there's some like
yeah, even
funny
after
line.
like Infinity Wars and Endgame, I know there's like a huge debate among like Marvel fans, like
Right.
that she was possibly like the most powerful
Right. So
superhero.
they know she is powerful. So my thinking is that this also might be to protect the world against Wanda's ultimate wrath, which comes from her heartbreak. Because we see when her brother
She's very
first died.
emotional. Like
Yeah,
her
we see when
whole
her twin died in Age of Ultron. That is when the most power came out, was when she was just beyond devastated. I think it's really an attempt by either Shield or Sword. We see
we haven't gotten into that one yet.
Yeah, we haven't gotten into that yet. But I think it's some sort of attempt to I don't want to say tranquilize her, but to just like
calm her down.
Yeah, but like just
because
calm her down. Because like Homegirl could end the world.
Yeah, if she really wanted to.
Imagine, okay, she lost her brother, right? And that is what gave her
and
like
that
power boost.
That huge like
her
meltdown.
Her ultimately taking Ultron's heart out. Yeah.
Like and imagine what happens now. The only other person, like the love of her life,
well,
like she had to.
And Vision is quite literally the only person she has in the world.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time that they've put her in like, we don't know what you're capable of. We need to put you in a controlled environment. Don't they do that? That's how her and Vision get together, right? Like Vision is almost like her like babysitter, because after Age of Ultron, they're like, you can do that.
Right.
We don't know what you're, and she even knows it too. That's why she's like, yeah, I need to be here. Like,
well, you even see in Civil War, she's like devastated by her own power when she uses it, and they have Vision like keep an eye on her, and that's when we see like their friendship form and the protectiveness form, and then
no, it's not the first time they've done that to her.
Right. She's incredibly powerful. We see that from the start, and I think there's potential there. There's potential for her to become a villain. I think it's a perfect.
That's another debate people are having with this show. Is at the end of this show, is Wanda going to be the villain? Because this very much could be
like
another like villain origin story, because they're like literally they've like, she doesn't know anything,
like brainwashed.
Yeah, she's like kind of like
and she thinks Vision's alive, and what's more, she's getting her after with Vision. Like I can't.
And she's building this life with him, and then she's gonna like come out of it and realize it was all a lie.
Like, the anger and the heartbreak and the anguish I feel watching this, just as like from the like, oh my gosh, when they made those rings, that broke. I can't even tell you, that broke my heart, because all I was thinking about is when Miss Wanda was killing him, and he was like, "I love you," and then you know what I mean? I was just, as a hardcore romantic myself, I was like, no. It's not real. It's so heartbreaking. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about just how heartbreaking this show is. And like the drama of it all. Like Homegirl needs some. Can we get her some?
Yeah, we need to get her some therapy. Witches need therapy too, babe. Like, please.
No.
I think that's what she needs. I think she needs that more than she needs a
protective
Truman Show, Black Mirror. People are watching her live her life. That's so weird. Anyway, okay, so
that's episode 1.
Yeah, we didn't get into S.W.O.R.D though.
Oh, we did not.
S.W.O.R.D is. Okay, so I did some research because I was like, I don't ever remember S.W.O.R.D being a thing. I was like,
never did I.
But that's because S.W.O.R.D, this is like the first time S.W.O.R.D has ever been introduced.
Right.
I don't read the comics. I've never read the comics. I've just watched the movies my entire life. So in none of the movies, I was like, what?
No, because it was
like,
does the helicopter, does that come in the second episode?
That comes in the second episode.
The second episode. Okay, so in the second episode, we very plainly see the sword symbol.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, what?
But I did some research on like Easter eggs and such. And on collider.com. This is not sponsored, but hey.
I mean, if you want to, please.
We could talk about you all day. They put some really good stuff in this article, and they add stuff every new episode. But okay, S.W.O.R.D is basically let me read what it says. Okay, we have our first of what will likely be many, many appearances of S.W.O.R.D, the group which seems to be monitoring Wanda and Vision as they live their lives in this sitcom world. WandaVision is S.W.O.R.D's official introduction into the MCU. They'll likely be a key player in the series, especially given the fact that one of their own agents, Monica Rambeau, infiltrates the sitcom world in episode 2.
As Geraldine.
Comics, S.W.O.R.D is a counterterrorism and intelligence agency which monitors threats to Earth that could have extraterrestrial origins. While S.W.O.R.D keeps its eyes on the skies, its sister agency S.H.I.E.L.D. monitors the threats on the ground. And so we also wanted to talk about the cast, because there are still more people in the cast that have yet to be introduced.
That have not come out yet.
And one of the people in the cast, or one of the characters that's coming back from Thor, is Darcy, which is
Kat Dennings.
Kat Dennings.
My baby Kat Dennings. Yes, Darcy is coming back.
Darcy comes back, and I was watching Thor, and I was like, it would make sense that she works with S.W.O.R.D because her entire character in Thor is her studying her and Jane Foster.
Jane Foster's little.
They all study extraterrestrial planets, all that, the stars,
yeah, that's how we first
all that
see Thor's world.
Sense that she would come back in she would come back, I think, possibly as an agent of S.W.O.R.D. I don't know what her character is going to be.
Well, I think she might be a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. because there were a few times in the Thor movies where she's like, Phil won't call me back. Also, rip Phil. My homie Phil Collins. R.I.P. Well, but there's a few times in there where she's like, oh, well, S.H.I.E.L.D., whatever that is, won't call me back. And I was like, interesting. So she's been put into contact with S.H.I.E.L.D. from the start.
Well, that's because during Avengers, the first Avengers, S.H.I.E.L.D. is the one that put them all under, protected all of them.
Yeah.
Because remember, Thor, they tell Thor that Jane is safe. So that would mean that Darcy would have to be with her.
Right.
And I'm
Darcy
sure
would therefore know.
Yeah, and then when Jane in Thor, the Dark World, when Jane disappears, the only person she could call that would be able to help her is S.H.I.E.L.D. And she has that information already, because they also took her information in the first Thor movie.
Right.
So she has all that information, but I think she's going to come back as an agent of S.W.O.R.D. And maybe...
Well, because it's also worth noting that when S.H.I.E.L.D. Didn't S.W.O.R.D start when S.H.I.E.L.D. was compromised, or am I losing it? When S.H.I.E.L.D. was
this is the first time S.W.O.R.D has ever appeared.
Right, entered. But I think when S.H.I.E.L.D. was compromised by Hydra, I think that's when they started looking for another organization specifically for intergalactic battles or threats or something. But it could also have stemmed from Captain Marvel. I think Kat Dennings is gonna come in as a Monica character, as a Geraldine character, and I'm very excited.
Or she could be the person watching them.
That's true.
Because she's a scientist that she collects data.
Yeah.
That's her whole thing. She's not an agent, so if anything were to backfire,
that we know of yet. She's not an agent that we know of yet. Yeah.
If anything were to backfire, agents know how to protect themselves. I feel if Darcy ever went in there, also what we've seen of her as a character, I don't think she would really be able to defend herself against Wanda or Vision. And not that she would have to win a fight, but at least defend herself. She'd probably be like,
I'm excited. I think Kat Dennings is going to bring some very, very humorous one-liners that I cannot wait to see. Because I was talking to my brother, I was like, basically in every movie, Kat Dennings literally plays herself. Just very much dry comic relief. I love it. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to some of the Easter eggs in episode 1. One of them I found was in Vision's tie. And I didn't even look at that until recently. It's a rectangle with 2 dots inside and then 2 dots on the outside. And a lot of fans speculate that the 2 dots inside the rectangle are Wanda and Vision, and the rectangle is the TV. It's WandaVision, this realm that they're in. And the 2 dots on the outside is who's monitoring them. And that shows that this is a trap. It's not some luxury timeline. It's just not a good. It's a weird place to be for them. And you also see that in the this could be me just reading so into it, but the bottle of wine is
there's an Easter egg about the bottle of wine.
Yeah, I can't pronounce this, but it's Maison de Mépris or whatever. and it translates to House of Misery. Like
yeah.
the House
Did
of
you
Misery.
hear about that? Wanda was used to be not tortured, but like she used to be like a lab rat for one of the Hydra
Yeah, that's how
scientists. Yeah.
we first find her
That's
in
also but that's in the second episode. So we're gonna get that in.
yeah, because we find Wanda as a Hydra experiment with the
Yeah.
twins at the end of is it Iron Man? Man, it's at the end of one of it. It's the ending credits of one of them before oh goodness. Anyways, okay, move on to another Easter egg while I find this one.
There is in WandaVision, there are like these commercials. We didn't talk about this yet. There are these commercials with inside of the show, and the first commercial we see is a toaster from Stark Industries, and the Easter egg there is that when the toaster comes up, the beep 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 is the same beep in Iron Man's suit. Which I didn't realize until after I realized it. But it was
And Wanda started by hating Stark Industries because backstory, her and her brother
that's
waited
how her and her
for
brother
2 days for a Stark explosive to kill them, and that's how her vengeance is started when she wants to go after Iron Man. And we see that that's the Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier is when we are first introduced to Wanda, and they are in some sort of lab as lab rats, as Hydra lab rats.
Yeah.
I mean, they volunteered themselves to get experimented on.
Yeah. And then in the end of that, going back to the commercial,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of that commercial, the saying for Stark Industries or the saying for the toaster is forget about your past, here's your future.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. And that to me, when I saw that, was like, that's weird. I was like, that's weird. I feel like those are definitely going to come back. Those the commercials that
because then the second commercial is for
for
clock.
Hydra, and
for Hydra. It says Hydra 1000.
The name of the watch is called Strucker, I think.
Yeah,
Strucker is the name of the scientist that experimented on Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the same thing that
Hydra? It's like don't let him steal your time or something. Like don't
something steal your time. Hold up.
So I was like, oh wow. And I watched an interview with Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, and they specifically, I think it was Kimmel, if I'm not mistaken, he specifically asked about the bottle of wine and explained the fan theory, and Paul Bettany was like, well, our prop guy would be great if that is, but I don't know. And I was just chuckling because these actors were like, girl, I just do my job.
Yeah. It starts off with them in bed. So it starts off with them in bed, and they hear like this banging sound, and then they realize it's the tree outside their window. It's really cute. It's really
funny. The writers are just they've just captured the essence of Bewitched, and
they're giving me everything.
Oh, it's so good.
Like everything I've ever wished for Wandavision.
Yeah,
like they are giving it to us in this show.
But there's like a line where she's like, well, did you use your night vision? And I was like, oh, that made me chuckle. I love it. I think this like lighthearted, joyful side of Marvel is an incredible thing, and I think it's something that's brought in a lot of new fans.
The last couple Marvel movies were really dark and sad.
And don't get me wrong, I love a 12-minute scene as much as a 12-minute fight scene as much as the next person. But what drew me into the Marvel universe and what made me like a big fan and like go back and research all this is Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany's like acting.
Yeah.
And their love, and it's just so joyful. And I think this show is gonna get a lot of new fans into the Marvel universe.
Yeah, and also putting it on the platform of it being a series as opposed to a 2-hour movie where you would have like in post-production you have to like cut things. You have the time and the resources to like really like dig deep and like just
I think WandaVision is going to be really helpful for the Marvel universe. I really do.
Yeah. Going back to summarize. So after the scene where they are in bed, it's the next day and they are practicing for this magic show that's taking place at like the public high school in their community, and it is the first time you really see Wanda and Vision try to like fit in with their town and the people in their town. Like Wanda really, really wants to impress this I forgot what her name is, but this
the blonde
really
one.
like popular mom. She was giving me very much Mad Men and giving me very much Mad Men vibes in this episode. She really wants to impress the moms in the town.
Very much like a 1960s Regina George.
Yeah, the person that she wants to impress,
right.
the person that Wanda wants to, or the woman that Wanda wants to impress. Right. Vision just wants to make his wife happy. Yeah. He is you see him as like this very this is the first time that you see them like talk about or like kind of hint at the idea that they want to like create a family, because Wanda starts talking about like, oh, I want the kids to fit in at school, like, so I have to fit in with these moms. And then Vision is like I want to make sure that my kids are like protected, so we're gonna go to this like
neighborhood watch meeting.
Neighborhood watch meeting.
Something it's like a community, it's like a neighborhood watch meeting, and that's the first time you really see Vision show initiative towards anything that's not first approved by Wanda, and that's not first what Wanda wants. And that shows like
which is also nice for him, because his entire existence, like even as Jarvis before this, was like people would dictate what he did
or someone else. But I think something that Vision is really special because he likes that responsibility. He takes that, like, that's his form of love. You know, and showing Wanda how he can serve and protect her. And so that was really cool for me to see, as like Vision kind of stepping into his own character and then going to, assimilate with the boys, which is why he takes the gum, which is inevitably.
Yeah, and then at the neighborhood watch meeting, Vision accidentally takes a piece of gum. He can eat gum, but he accidentally swallows it. He can chew gum, not eat gum. You don't eat gum. Don't eat gum.
He swallows it.
Goes to chew gum and he accidentally swallows it.
And it gets
to the moms meeting up to figure out how they were going to plan this talent show for the school. And this is the first time that you see Agent, what's her name? Agent Monica.
Who is now passing as Geraldine.
Yes.
And can I just say, Marvel Universe.
Remember who Monica is? That's Captain Marvel's
best friend's
goddaughter. Yeah, best friend's daughter. Her goddaughter.
And we see her in Captain Marvel a lot. She's a little girl.
Yeah, she's a little girl.
She's the one that gives Captain Marvel the colors on her suit and like keeps her jacket. Yeah. She is Carol's goddaughter.
And so that's the first time we see her. Then cut to the end of the meeting. Miss Wanda is helping the very popular mom.
But before that, Geraldine introduces herself as Geraldine, who we know is Monica, and is probably
forms like this friendship with Wanda, like
right away is just trying to help Wanda get on her good side and like be an ally to her. Yeah. And can I just say the casting? Oh my goodness! I went back and watched Captain Marvel, right? And the little girl and the actress who plays Geraldine or Monica, their facial structure is so similar.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, these casting people need a raise, because that was insane. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So cut to
the mean girl, not mean girl, but I don't want to say mean girl.
The
popular mom, is like, oh, Wanda, stay behind. You're gonna help me clean up. And Wanda's friend Agnes, who we met in episode 1, is kind of like, this is your way in. Like, don't
interested in Vision and Wanda.
Like, don't mess up. Like, this is your way in. Like, get it right. So Wanda is very like trying to like just be as helpful as possible. And as she's like cleaning the dishes and putting everything away, because they had like a tea party like situation happening, the mom, or the popular mom in the community, is like, why are you here? Like, you're messing. She kind of is just like, you're messing everything up. You're not supposed to be here.
Very randomly hostile.
She gets very defensive. Aggressive. And Wanda's like, we're just here to help. Like, what do you, like, why are you attacking me right now? And then the radio that's playing in the background, you hear it like interference, and there's a man's voice, and he's like, Wanda, what are you doing? Who's doing this to you? This show reminds me so much of Black Mirror. If like Black Mirror and the Truman Show like got married and Marvel was like the godfather or like godparent, it would be WandaVision.
And and the mean girl like gets so flustered she breaks the glass.
We
right?
forgot to talk about the helicopter.
That's okay. We're jumping around. They know.
But
They
yeah.
know.
If you've seen the show, you know. So after the voice on the radio, the other girl like breaks the glass. I guess she was gripping it too tight. And and at this point, everything is still black and white, and the only color you see is red. Before this, there is before this scene, right before her and Agnes go to like the meeting, she hears the bang that she heard at the beginning of the episode where it was the tree. She hears it again, and she goes outside, and there's a red helicopter in the
in her rose bush,
in the rose bush, and it has the colors of Iron Man's suit, and it has the logo from S.W.O.R.D. And a lot of people see this. I was reading like Easter eggs and stuff. A lot of people see this as whoever, like somebody's trying to rescue her, and the helicopter is a rescue helicopter. Is like trying to signal to her, like, hey, like I'm coming to get you, like I'm trying to help you, because it's a rescue helicopter. But that's right now the only colors we see are red, and it's still black and white. And you see red again on the hand after she cuts it open.
And when she does look at the helicopter, Wanda's looking at the helicopter and looking at it, and she's like, you get the sense that she's just about to form a conclusion. Like the music kind of swells, and then Agnes pops up and distracts her immediately from it. And Agnes takes her away to the thing. Which
I think Agnes.
Trust Agnes, bro.
And Monica, what's her name in the
Geraldine.
I think Agnes and Geraldine are both agents, and they were put in.
I think Agnes is gonna be the villain of some sort. I really do.
Because remember how I said that like they were put in there? Yeah. I feel like Agnes and Monica are there to like keep the order.
Yeah.
Almost.
I can't shake the sense
because the way that Agnes came in. Right as she was in the helicopter, I was like, somebody definitely told her to like
something's up. Yeah, to like go befriend them. Well, that's the thing. Like, I think she has ulterior motives, and I don't know if they're good or bad yet. I really don't, because in the comics, she's a witch who's after Vision and Wanda's children, who's after the twins. So, like, I read something about that real quick, and okay, I'm getting too ahead of myself. We're not going to talk about episode 3. But I think Agnes, something's going on. Something's a little fishy with Agnes. I agree with your point that she's been put in, but I don't know if she's an agent of S.W.O.R.D. I don't know if she's S.H.I.E.L.D.
I mean, I think she could be bad and still be an agent of S.W.O.R.D. because we've seen that.
Right. We've seen, girl,
where like the agents turn or also always had an ulterior motive.
With the Hail Hydra being that was scary.
But anyway, back to the episode. Skip after everything that happens after that meeting with the lady and Wanda and the radio.
That was really weird.
It gets really that was like the weirdest that it gets in that episode. Like you're really at that point, you're like, it's confirmed that whatever is happening, Wanda's controlling what has happened, but she doesn't know why she's there. But somebody is controlling her environment. So skip to the talent show, and she is like in her nice little like magician assistant outfit. It's really cute. I really like it. Yeah, Vision's a magician, and Vision is late because, as we stated before, he got some gum in his
he's a little messed up.
And
he's acting a little drunk. He's not really working quite well.
He uses his powers, and then Wanda has to use her powers to cover the fact that he's using his powers. But yeah, then we see there's one part where he has like the magician's door, and it's like, oh, put somebody in here and they'll disappear. And I think
he forgets to put Wanda in.
Yeah, in it.
And so then Wanda uses her powers and puts Monica/Geraldine
inside of it, and then Monica comes out, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, yay!"
And they bow and they clap, and then Monica's like,
"How did you guys do that?"
And Wanda's like,
I feel like she definitely knows what's going on.
Homegirl knows. That was not a coincidence that Monica's the one person that has been exposed to their powers.
Then everything's fine. She takes the gum out of Vision's system. They go home. They have some like heartfelt, really cute, another cute moment. I'm just like,
all cute moments just,
oh my god. Everything that could have been. Literally everything that could have been.
Breaking my heart, bro.
I got that from the trailer because the trailer takes place, like, you see different eras. Like, it starts, the trailer starts in black and white, and then it goes into color, and then you see, like, it almost looks like they're in the 80s and they're in the 90s, and then at the end, it's like the outside of the
I think they're gonna break out of it. I think they're gonna break out of whatever this is and become their full selves. But then, anyways, so keep going.
But then, they're having, like, a little, like, heartfelt moment, and then they hear the bang again, and they go outside. It's still black and white. They go outside, and they go outside, and they go into the street, and they see somebody open one of the sewers, and out of the sewer is this guy in a bee costume. And then Wanda looks at it and says, no.
Yeah.
And then everything rewinds back to when they're back in the house having their little heartfelt moment. And then they kiss, everything comes into color, and she's pregnant. And that's how the episode ends. And I just got chills, like, because I remember how it looked.
That's the part where I was like, okay, so we know Wanda has her power. She has ultimate control of this timeline because she just very quiet, where they would have, powered up. She very quietly is like, no, and just rewinds and goes back and makes it so that she doesn't go outside, doesn't come in contact with him. They have their cute little moment. And then all of a sudden she's pregnant, and all of a sudden Wanda puts everything in color.
Yeah.
And Grace brought up
is because she is catching on that, or this, I feel like she definitely is she's in control of the world that she's in. Like, she's put in a controlled environment, but I feel like she can control other people and how they react and act to things. The only people I don't think she can control is Agnes and Monica, because I think they're agents and they're in on the whole thing. But in terms of Mr. and Mrs. Hart, the popular mom that she's trying to, like, get in with, they both of them have these moments where you would think that they would break out of character, but they don't. And like, once Wanda, like, refocuses, like, they, like, it's almost like they fall back into line. So I think she controls this whole thing. There was also, I saw something on TikTok, I forgot the guy's name. If I remembered his name, I would have shouted him out. Not that I think he's ever gonna listen to this. But he was talking about how in the comics, there's a scene where her and Wanda leave, and the babysitter calls them, and she's like, your babies are disappeared. Like, I don't know where they went. And that's because the babies, Wanda's children, are a creation of her imagination. So when she doesn't think about them, or she isn't, like, consciously, like, making them up in her head, they're gonna disappear, which I think is what happens with the people in the town. Kind of, sort of, maybe. Then again, I don't really know, because we, like, this is
we don't really, we're just going off of our little theories here.
But I think that's why there's, like, this weird moment where, like, especially with the other lady, when she breaks the glass, like, she has this, like, out of character moment. Like, she's like, who, like, it's almost like she's waking up, being, like, in a dream, and she's like, who are you? She's like, what are you doing here? Like, you're messing everything up. And then finally, when Wanda, like, snaps out of her little moment that she's having, the other woman snaps out of whatever moment she was having, and she's like, okay, just clean it up. And, like, everything's just like,
we know Wanda can make people see whatever she wants to see. So in theory, Wanda could totally be showing this town to everybody in the town. Wanda could totally be making it all up. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think that works well with your theory of them, there's little moments where you see them slip up. There's little moments where you see the town people, like, glitch. And we saw that with the Hearts at dinner, and we saw that with this woman when she is like, what are you doing? You're messing it all up. Why are you here?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with that, because we do know that Wanda is capable, and right now we know that Wanda is capable of, like, creating life. Like, she created her kids out of, like, her imagination.
Literally, it was like that.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see that. But one of the Easter eggs that I found was really cool was the beekeeper suit. It has the S.W.O.R.D logo. Hold up.
I missed that. Does it really?
It has the S.W.O.R.D logo on the back of the jumpsuit. this is also from Collider as well. So the sword logo is at the back of the jumpsuit, and it says, but equally as notable is that its costume is like a beekeeper, plus he's swarmed by bees, which is a better description of an agent working for AIM, or Advanced Ideas Mechanics, which we see in Iron Man 3. We hear of this program called AIM. And AIM is a group of scientists who work to preserve the purpose of overthrowing governments around the world. Their agents' uniforms look a lot like beekeepers, hence the confusion around this guy, who this guy might actually be working for. It's also worth noting that AIM was founded by Baron von Strucker, like the name of the watch in the episode. So I think it's also like these people, like I feel like whoever this person, I think it could be one of two things. Actually, I think it could be one thing. I think in the back of her head, she remembers like when she was tortured by the scientist, and she remembers who these people, like what these people wore when they tortured her. And like, yeah, and like it's almost like her thoughts are kind of being jumbled. Like now that she's slowly losing control, which is also why she goes into color, because she sees color. And I think the reason why she switches into color is because she's realizing, I'm losing control, like, oh, I'm almost slipping.
I think it's to be
and
like,
that's why she also says no. So in this episode, you really get the sense that she's like slowly losing control of everything that's happening.
But I'm also gonna argue that I think Wanda, I think Wanda's fighting herself, because I think this is also a really powerful response to her trauma. Like, think about it. If I think she wants this more than anything. So I think she's really choosing to see, and when these little abnormalities come, I think subconsciously, maybe not subconscious, somewhere in her mind, she's like, no, just let me have this. Just let me make this make sense, because she wants it so badly. And I think that's what her putting everything into color shows us most of all, and the beekeeper shows us most of all, is like, I think she's very aware. I think she's doing all she can to suppress those memories and to suppress that reality, because it will break her own heart. I think she's protecting herself by trying to conform to this little town. And I think that's why we see it matters so much to her to keep these little abnormalities like brushed away or like under the rug. She's just like, oh, that was weird. Anyways, back to Vision and my babies. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's meant, all these things come, and maybe AIM and Sword and Shield and all these things are trying to intervene, but I don't think Wanda would want them to intervene. This is her perfect reality. This is her utopian society. This is everything she's ever dreamed of. I think Wanda's going to work really hard to protect this reality that she loves. But I think these little inconsistencies, show that she knows.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the further it goes, the more that she realizes that not only that this isn't real, but that she's actually not in control, that she was put here by somebody else. She's going to slowly lose it, and these inconsistencies are going to be more and more common in the show. Which I'm very excited to see, because those moments really come out of nowhere. Like, you're like, what? You're like, what is happening?
This show is so beautifully written, and especially Wanda, so refreshing to see. And this is why WandaVision hooked me into the Marvel Universe, is because I no longer saw just one-dimensional characters. Because even from the start, when Scarlet Witch is introduced, we see a backstory. We see some character development. We see her powers. We see that she's a threat equal to the men. And that's why WandaVision was so appealing to me, because this was the first time I really saw Con and like symbol to me, is because she's way more than a one-dimensional figure that we've previously seen in Marvel. Yeah, so I think this is going to be really good. I'm excited to see the development.
I'm excited to see it too. Yeah. I think we've covered everything in the last 2 episodes, or in the first 2 episodes, not last 2. Yeah. I think that's...
But, girl, you and I could ramble on for like hours.
Yeah, we could ramble on and on about this, and then we'd probably be talking about... I don't even know. We'd probably go from like Avengers to like X-Men to like Fantastic Four, but we're not going to put y'all to that.
We're not.
Came here for WandaVision. So we'll be back with talking about episode 3. I'm very excited to see it. Yeah. we'll see what happens.
Hope you guys
I hope you enjoyed this.
Anyone out there is listening, please reach out to us. We do have an Instagram page.
It's called the 2800 podcast on Instagram.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback and any other theories you have. And just thanks for listening to us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All right. Bye-bye.